Welcome back to Control.
Hey, what's up, guys?
This stream brought to you by the incredibly dour look on my face when I realized that, due to the sole efforts of one Quentin Tarantino, no pun intended, we will never get a redneck slasher flick called Kill Billy.
Oh man, it's gonna take me a second to get away from the sole purpose joke. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee and pretend I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you don't like it?
I don't like what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
And here I was worried it wouldn't track.
Is that another foot joke? Quentin Tarantino, you make good movies, but I'm confused. I'm not confused. I just disagree.
You're not confused, you're just uncomfortable.
I suppose. I
think
so.
that's a good way of putting it. Hey, what do you have to say?
If they're in there, we go around that
The
way.
face of my enemy is also my enemy.
I don't think I ever told you this, but I was actually on the path to
so
being a ranger
I'll tell you what, the next time that we go into the Panopticon,
Anyway,
we have some Easter eggs to look at.
Rangers Club was a great bunch.
I'm going to attempt to either remember how to get to them or find a better way to get to them, like with instructions, because it's stuff that we don't want to miss.
They weren't here when Darling handed out the
There are like
Then they had
3 or 4 Easter eggs in this game total that are unmissable in my opinion, and like the rest of them are great, but are whatever. But there are definitely a handful that I'm like, oh shit, we gotta hit that somehow. For
I'll keep
hazing.
an eye out for them, Arish. And I won't let them stay his. I have to
Now,
go.
this is something that's been
You're not the
bugging
only
me
one
for a
who's busy.
while, right?
Yeah?
The design on their harnesses, I feel like I've seen that somewhere in art school. I feel like I made that design with like a protractor and a pencil for something, and I don't remember specifically what that is, but it's a like a geometric pattern or a spiral or whatever that I have definitely seen multiple places in my life.
Well, you know what they say about time.
What? That it's convoluted in the land of Lordran?
That it's a flat circle. But also
Oh.
that. It's time for another side quest.
I'll tell you what, while we're talking about time and interpretations of it, one of my very best friends in the world is on the kick about how time isn't real and time doesn't exist. And it rubs me the wrong way every single time they say it, because I understand what they're trying to say. That like time is variable based on perception, and like time as like measuring time as a human constant or whatever is bullshit in a lot of ways.
And time isn't even a constant.
But yeah, but like the idea to say that time like conceptually isn't real is so troubling to me. I can think of fewer things that I disagree with more.
Well, what do you find more upsetting? The idea that time isn't real, or the idea that time is a flat circle?
I find both of those things fine, because I know the thing that bothers me is the idea that someone would genuinely think that time isn't real. Does that make sense?
Why do you say that?
Because time is so important, and you learn so, like, the world doesn't function without time. There is no context without time. There's no learning without time. Like, time definitely exists. You might be like, oh, you know, if I'm aware of it, it might perceptibly be moving at a slower pace, or like it means less to certain people. Like if you have
I should find the
money
others.
and affluence of a certain degree that time doesn't mean as much to somebody, but the claim that time doesn't exist is like it's up there with like flat earth theory to me, right? As like, this is troubling. This is something that you shouldn't say.
Honestly, I find it much like flat earth theory, harmless stupidity.
I guess that's the thing. That maybe that's the difference, is like, you know me, and speaking from the perspective of someone who is very stupid and loves being stupid. Stupidity can't be harmless. Like, no. Stupidity can be harmless. I have trouble looking at stupidity. I look at stupidity, and all I can think of is the potential harm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
I'm like, man, there's so much stupidity out there. Please.
We have to contain the stupidity.
We have to contain the stupidity. Everybody go to school. Everybody do your best to go to school. And if at some point you feel like it's necessary to leave school, okay, but don't stop learning. How's that? How's that for a
If at some
a
point
life
you
lesson?
feel it's necessary to leave school, hey, at least you tried.
If at some point you feel that it's necessary to leave school, go ahead and leave school, but don't stop learning. If at any point you feel like it's necessary to stop learning, go back to school. That's the dividing line that I'll take. There's always more to learn. Now, a thin dividing line between attempting to learn everything you can and then attempting to contain everything you can. And attempting to contain everything that you can learn, or potentially contain things that you can't learn, is what causes many deaths and games like this. Be content in knowing that maybe you're not... maybe it's not okay to know everything.
Some doors are better left closed than all that.
Some doors are better left closed. But it's a fool's game to suggest that doors don't exist because you can't open all of them. It might just be a matter of semantics.
Or a matter of perception.
No, you know what it is?
Hmm?
It's literally how can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real? That's what I hear when someone says time doesn't exist. It's like, no, dude, no, time exists. It's just complicated sometimes.
Also, speaking of semantics, I would say no, time doesn't exist because time isn't a material concept.
That's interesting. That is an argument of semantics that's important to make.
Oh!
Hello.
Getting right into it.
You and I come at this from different angles because you are largely somebody who concerns themselves with like the science of things and how things work properly.
In other words, this is my kind of game.
Yeah, and how to make things go with numbers and logic and code.
That's right.
And on the other hand, I come from the other part of the world where large parts of what I make comes from the intangible. Which is a really fucking stupid way to say that I get paid to use my imagination.
You don't get paid to think. At least not in the traditional sense.
I get paid to think very, very much. I just don't get paid to invent.
Now, do you get paid to think a lot, or do you get paid a lot to think? That's an important distinction to make.
I get paid a lot of money somewhat infrequently. sometimes I get paid a little bit of money relatively frequently, depending on the season. There's a lot more work around, say, Christmas time, but tends to pay slightly less throughout the rest of the year. There's more money for less work.
Yeah, I believe that.
But it all kind of comes around into being like, it all kind of evens out in the end. Especially,
like when you get a flat rate on your electricity plan. What a
Sure.
fool, right?
Yeah, those are things that I don't like to think about.
I don't like to think about most things because most things are bad.
I don't know about that, but
I do.
I'll say
I've been around long enough to say that most things are bad.
I've been around longer than you, not by much.
Not by much.
I forgot what I was gonna say though, so that's okay.
That means I win by default.
Yeah, this is the best kind of victory, a victory by default.
Technically correct. The best kind of correct.
I'll tell you what though, you right now, between the two of us, are winning because you get to play this awesome game, Control, and I get to look down at my right side at this cellophane wrapped copy of Demon's Souls for the console that I can't buy. Because apparently it doesn't exist. You see, this is gonna date this. I mean, not that it matters since I literally put up the dates for all of the videos as they go up, but the situation with getting and ordering and buying and then later receiving PS5 has now become even more complicated as so ahead of time Sony basically put out a thing, or it might have been Amazon even, that put out a thing that said, hey, when we send out these boxes in the mail, we will probably not use discrete packaging, right? Like, it's going to be the package that it is when it reaches the warehouse.
Mm-hmm. And
so the reaction to that was, okay, well, that's just asking people to steal these incredibly rare, high-rated items. And that's exactly what's happened, because if you just type in like PlayStation 5 into Google right now, you get about 1 million stories of like, hey, I just got this Nerf gun and a bunch of rocks in the package from Amazon, and also I'm working on getting the delivery driver fired. And there are like 10 to 12 stories of that at the same time. And I'm just sitting here like, man, I just want to play the video game. I just want to sit down, eat the crescent moon grass, and go fight that big tower knight. That's all I want to do. They got mind flayers in that game. I want to like stab a mind flayer.
that's a noble goal.
That's all I want. I don't think anybody will disagree that mind flayers deserve to die.
And how can you kill the mind flayers if you don't have a PS5? You need to.
Right.
You need to become the Moon Master.
Your only other options at that point are either to play Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm looking at quite a bit, or to get a PlayStation 2 and play Demon's Souls that way. Because mind flayers totally exist in, like, okay, so this is something that you might appreciate, right?
Yeah.
The remake for Demon's Souls is, aside from some art changes here and there, it's largely built on the same code. And like a lot of the old actual code for that game is what's running in the remake, just with some newer graphical changes and coats of paint on top of it.
That's pretty
and like
good.
there is, yeah, like there's plenty of extra tech that Blue Point like added onto it, but the remake was not made or touched by FromSoft. it's largely the same game insofar as like all of the animations are pretty much the same, and like, you know, you still lock in and backstabs and all of your like side to side jumps and everything is still pretty much the same. But it's just really, really fucking pretty. Also, just like put into your head, imagine a world in which you can play Dark Souls or Bloodborne, and every time that you die, you just immediately, like, right back in.
That's a strong pitch.
It's mental change, but it is enough of a change that you're like, man, it's fucking nuts. That recontextualizes the whole play experience. Especially in the case of Bloodborne, which, like, people sure do love Bloodborne, but that game notoriously had some awful times. And I'll tell you what, there's more stuff out there with what's the word I'm looking for?
Just like Arish said.
Nope. I lost it. I don't remember.
You're making us all proud.
Thanks. I don't know, I'm sure it's coming across, but I am very excited in a way that I haven't been excited for a console I don't think I've been excited for a console since the Switch, and then the 360. Like, it's been that long. I don't really typically care about the, like, half-step consoles, and, like, usually I'm a little bit more interested in playing older games anyway, but I'm very excited this time around. Oh, the other thing I was gonna say was about Bloodborne.
Yeah, what about it?
The other interesting thing about these consoles is that generally what they're doing is they're adding a kind of top layer of performance on top of older games.
Yeah.
Where generally speaking, most of them just run better. Like, whatever they're doing, it might literally just be like loading them onto an SSD. But games like Fallout 4 and like Uncharted and stuff like that, marquee title, and Ghost of Tsushima, like marquee PlayStation 4, Xbox One titles are starting to run at, in some cases, double or quadruple the frame rate. Like, some of those older games, I go up to 120, which is like, it's literally making older games better and easier and more fun to play, which that's kind of the main reason that I'm so excited.
There's probably something to be said for the fact that, like, Fallout 4, for instance, will probably run better just by virtue of being on better hardware.
Shit. What now?
And see, here's the other thing, right? Is in the case of Bloodborne, unless they do some serious work to Bloodborne on the back end, that is a game that does not have like it doesn't have a higher FPS mode, because that one was intentionally locked at 30 because of all of the stuff that goes around. Like, there is no 60 FPS version of Bloodborne, because it just doesn't run that way.
Good old tying game logic to frame rate, my fucking arch nemesis. Hey, I fucking see you.
You could, like, theoretically, depending on what that game looks like and what kind of access to those files still exists, like, assuming that they didn't just trash and lose everything, and they're willing to do the work, and that Sony would pay them to do it, you could see a situation in which maybe FromSoft would go back and, like, essentially redesign large parts of that game just to work with a higher frame rate. That's probably not going to happen. I would assume that that's way too much work and would not occur, especially with them also working on, like, supposedly that Game of Thrones writer GRR. I fucking forget his name.
JRR. No. That's
Lord of
his
the
name.
Rings. GRRM.
George R.R.
Yeah,
Martin.
I don't remember his name. George R.R. Martin, that's it. Assuming that that game still comes out, which I kind of doubt.
Don't care.
Yeah, like, assuming that game is still coming out, you would assume that it's still under heavy development too. So who knows? But you never know. Bloodborne is a game that did extremely well for them. And I did not get a chance to play it because it was on PS4 when I didn't have one, and by the time I got a PS4, I didn't care anymore because the newer stuff was coming out.
Arish saw it coming.
And I always figured that it would
I
come
should
to
get this back to
PC,
him.
and it didn't. So now, like, the onus is on me to kind of go back, because, like, I love Dark Souls 1 and 3, and I really want to see Demon Souls. There's a part of me that wants to go back and play Kingsfield. But... Maybe now I'll be able to get that chance. Because I would still have to purchase a copy at this point. Some very good coffee. I was watching earlier today a live stream that Sam Lake and the Remedy community manager and Alan Wake's actor all joined in to do of Alan Wake for about an hour and a half. It was really good. It was very silly watching them all together in a room. Just kind of trying to put together some footage for eventually when we edit together American Nightmare, which, you know, American Nightmare is such a strange game that I don't necessarily know how to, which is really weird considering how I feel about Control and Alan Wake. There are things about it that I think you're gonna absolutely love, and there are things about it that I go back to and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot that was here.
Oh, that's all of them. Not counting mine. Well, I guess I'll just have to wear all of them.
And it's also neat just seeing like how much of a media push they gave for American Nightmare.
Nothing's easy with the hiss.
Because I forgot that they did this at the time.
What's inside
but
the pouches?
they really went hard on trying to sell that game.
But, well, I guess I can tell you.
There was just like promo material absolutely everywhere in a way that like Remedy typically doesn't do. There was almost no.
Hold on, is he about
I
to
don't
tell me
believe there was
werewolves are
ever a
Turns out
TV
there was an altered item that was
commercial
creating
for
violent
Control, for
gravitational
instance.
anomalies during full moons.
I know that it got
We nearly did it.
trailers like at game conferences,
To remember the
and it
occasion
certainly
we all
got,
bought
you know,
silver bullets to wear around
trailers
our
sent
necks,
out on YouTube and
just in
stuff
case
like
we ever
that,
ran into
but
another werewolf.
I
So
don't
why did you
believe
leave the
that
Rangers?
Control ever
Thought I could
got
do more
anything
good
on
here.
TV.
Somebody's got to protect the people who protect everybody
And it
else.
didn't sell very well. Like, it reportedly, Control
I have to go.
broke
too.
even.
You're not the only one who's
Yeah.
been, you know.
Because, well, you know,
All
when
right,
this game
back to work.
came out for the first year, it was an Epic Game Store exclusive, which is why we're playing this now. And Epic, of course, doing the thing that they do, they gave them some leeway with it, right? They gave them an advance of some monetary value, which I don't know off the top of my head. But you got to admit, like, that kind of sucks. Like, even with that help that it broke even, that really sucks.
Yeah, that is a shame.
And it's like, it's the same story with Remedy every time. I would wonder, because I don't remember, but I wonder how financially well Max Payne did. Because I remember that Max Payne was always very critically acclaimed. And I remember that Alan Wake did not sell particularly well. Unfortunately, it shipped back to back with a Grand Theft Auto game, which fucking good luck. Not only did it ship back to back with Grand Theft Auto game, it shipped back to back with Grand Theft Auto 4, one of the best-selling games literally ever. Which is particularly interesting when you consider that Rockstar was eventually given the reins to do Max Payne 3. It's a big web. It's a big confusing web.
The big stupid jellyfish.
That's correct. Tell you what though, looking at all of the commercials and everything they did for American Nightmare, some of that stuff has aged a little weird, but some of that stuff is really funny. Just like, I went on this wiki dive of trying to figure out all of the little odds and ends and jokes that they put in for God, what's his name is like Icky Bill? Is that it? No, that's not it. What's his name? Yeah, you got Matthew Peretta is his voice, and then you got somebody else. A Finnish actor by the name of...
Let's know.
I can't quite remember. I'm trying to find it. There's a... There's only so much. The problem is that, like, every time that something tries to link you to a page, it's usually the wrong one.
Go fucking figure.
Go figure. Hold on, give me one moment here while I collect my thoughts and try and jump into the correct... Okay, Ilkka-Ville. I got it backwards. Ilkka-Ville, Finnish actor. He did a bunch of stuff. He makes like this oblique reference in the Super Effective Sales trailer where he's like, oh man, everybody's been talking about me and my performance, and I know that I'm particularly famous for always connecting to people. And I was like, is that a joke about a fucking, like, a cell phone commercial? And I went in because of the, you know, the Verizon, like, can you hear me now stuff that's in there, and I was like, there's gotta be, that sounds so familiar to me. I look it up on YouTube, and there are comments in that comment section that are like, oh yeah, no, isn't that totally him doing the cell phone commercial thing? And I'm like, well shit. Now I gotta find out if this is, in fact, for real. So far, I haven't been able to find anything about it, but I spent a good hour of my morning, this morning, just looking at, like, Finnish sites and recordings of old TV commercials that may or may not have Ilkka-Ville in them. There is a huge problem that I face, which is I love investigating shit. I adore investigation and trying to find, like, weird connections between things.
Stupid answers to stupid questions.
That's correct. Especially if those stupid answers are correct. That's my favorite thing. My favorite thing in the world is when I have a stupid idea in my head and I want to go and find out if it's real, and then I get a stupid answer, and it turns out the stupid answer is correct. All right, go ahead and talk to Dylan. I'll be quiet.
Happiness comes with white pearls, but yellow and red in the eye. You are a worm through time.
Shit.
The thunderstorm distorts you.
That's Dylan.
Comes, white pearls,
Can
but
you
yellow
hear
and
me?
red in the eye.
Oh, come on, Dylan. I'm here. I found you.
Surface into the way. You've always been a new you. You want this to be true.
Do you know who I am? Oh, you know me. Say it.
You are
Not
Dylan
doing so well.
Faden's sister.
He's talking in the third person.
Uh-oh.
Always a good sign. Do you know who you are?
Not Dylan. Trench and Darling made sure of that. Sick. But I'm better now. The hiss made me better. Push the fingers through the surface into the wet. You've always been the new you. You want this
Can you
to
stop
be true.
that? Please. Not exactly the reunion I'd hoped for.
It feels good to say those words. I want to say them. They sound good. They make me feel good. Don't you want to say them too?
No. Fuck off, no. You need to help me get this thing out of his head. If he is still in there, if there is anything left, you have to help me.
You came in through the hole in you. We let you in. You've always been here. The only truth. A copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Stop it!
Orange peel.
Shit. Shit. He can see you. This is not safe.
We found Polaris together with my sister when we were very small. In Ordinary. In the desert, through the door opened up by the slide projector. But she didn't help when Trench took me away. She didn't give me any powers. All the powers are my own powers. She didn't help when they locked me up for years. After the song time for applause, we build you till nothing remains. The air cracks and the truth will emerge out of you. You are home. The Bureau brought the slide projector back here with me. And the Bureau did what the Bureau does. They used it. And they found... They opened the door up to the hiss. That's the only thing I can thank them for.
There. There it is. We stopped the Altered World event in Ordinary when we shut down the slide projector. And now the projector's here.
An earworm is a tune you can't stop humming in a dream. Baby, 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 yeah. Just plastic. So safe. Nothing to worry about. Funny. I welcomed the hiss. I let it in. To get rid of her. The hiss set me free. Polaris is using you. The Bureau is using you. You are a puppet. You can almost hear our words, but you forget.
If we shut off the slide projector, maybe that will stop the hiss.
Your regulations.
Maybe it's not too late for my brother.
You must see the truth for yourself, Jessie. Sister. The horrible truth about the Bureau. The hiss is the better option. Go to the Prime Candidate program in the containment sector. I have the keycard to get you there. Salvador wanted me to have it.
Wanted? Bullshit. I saw what the hiss did to Salvador. What it turned him into.
Okay, Dylan. I'll go. I want to see the truth for myself.
I'll go. But only to look for the slide projector. You can help me. We can end this.
through time. That you are a worm through time. The thunderstorm distorts you. Happiness comes with white pearls, but yellow and red in the eye. Through a mirror, the inverted is made right.
I don't know what else I'm hoping to find here.
Dylan. Can we talk?
I'd like to tell you about a dream I had last night.
Off to a
Man.
good start.
There is a lot of stuff
Okay.
that they do with Dylan
I'm listening.
that I really like.
I was back in Ordinary
I-
before all of this happened.
Really like how
But in the dream,
kind of
I
out of
was
sync
alone.
a lot of his
it was
a lot of his
just
facial movements are,
me.
Yeah.
and
I
how
was
like
the only child.
it's subtle,
A
but
girl.
he is not synced up
My name
quite
was
as well as the
Jesse
rest of the cast is.
Dylan.
And he
faded.
also has a tendency to look
But then
directly
the
at the
bureau
camera
came and
during
caught
a
me,
lot of his key
brought me
lines,
back
which I like a
here,
lot too.
locked me up.
They do a good
Have you
job
ever
with
noticed
this. Like,
that our names, Jesse,
I
Dylan, they could
I
be
love how
girls'
off
names.
almost
boys'
every aspect of
anything.
meeting Dylan is.
Don't you find that weird? I find that
Between
weird.
animation timing and
Sure.
intention in the
What the
performance,
hell was that? Is he
and
trying
just
to mess
like
with me?
occasional,
You are a worm through
fourth
time.
wall
The
stuff.
thunderstorm distorts you.
It's clear that they had a lot of fun with him,
Yellow and red in the eye. Through a mirror,
and
the
I
inverted is
enjoy
made right.
that quite a bit.
Maybe Dylan's still in there. Maybe there's a way to reach him.
I'd like to talk to my brother, please.
Also, they point out an interesting thing here
Dylan?
about
Dylan would like to
the
tell you about
so
a dream he
something
had just now.
that
This
didn't
again?
didn't
I
get
was
pointed
going
out,
to
I
be
guess,
the new
until
director of
we
this
kind of
place.
came in through here a bit. But
I helped you get a
the
job
way
here.
that the game
so that we could
has
be
characters
together.
who refer to the hiss
You were
is
an
really
office
interesting to
assistant.
me in another way.
You'd make
because
coffee and deliver
At the very
mail.
beginning, the
and there was
hiss
always plenty
wasn't
of
a
work to
named
do,
entity until Jesse
and
gave
it
it a
stayed
name.
that way
That's right.
forever.
And yet,
Never.
before we meet up with
It was nice.
Emily and have the conversation
Really
about the
nice.
hiss and give it the name,
That's debatable.
you're able to pick up documents that
But here's
directly
the
reference the
strange
hiss as
thing.
what it is.
The
So
dream
clearly,
shifted,
like, time itself is
and
also
none of it was
it started
real
moving
anymore.
before you even picked up
It was
the
a game.
service weapon.
We were in a game, and it was a fucking
And
boring
there's another
game.
version of that too, with
But
you
couldn't
walk
stop
in, and we
playing.
didn't point it out, but
And then it shifted again.
in that first episode, you can
or
see
maybe it was
like
another dream already.
paintings around
Or
the
maybe I'm just
FBC of
confusing
Zachariah
them.
Trench, and as soon
But in
as
this
you
other
assume
dream,
his role, all of
it
those
was more like
paintings
a
become
musical.
Jesse,
They do.
and it's
This
so
is an
neat.
ordinary song about an ordinary girl from an ordinary town. It's the ordinary story.
And there it is.
She worked an ordinary job in an
Like operating on musical musical rules, because it would just be so heightened and
That's
so
all I can
ridiculous
remember
that I
of that
feel like I
dream.
would thrive in it better
Maybe
than
that's
real
for the
life.
best.
You are a worm through time.
How much fucking dialogue is there?
Maybe
Jesus.
I can learn more about the hiss from
They've
him.
given Dylan a lot of
Can we talk?
dialogue. That son of a bitch.
I just had an interesting dream.
It's even harder for me
Shit.
to gauge because not only am I on a
That's
delay from
fascinating,
you, but like
let's talk about the hiss for a
the
change,
frame
huh?
rate on Twitch
This
is
dream
skipping a
was
little bit.
about the hiss.
Best I'm gonna get.
In my
So,
dream,
I'm
the
really
hiss
not
had
sure.
broken free of
I'm
this
really not sure how
prison,
much more there
this
is for him.
house.
I do
I'd
know that
set
they
it
wrote quite a bit
free.
though.
And the president himself was there to welcome us. He was the first one to take the hiss in. Spread the word. At first, many people thought it was horrifying. That he was horrifying.
Those
But
quick
also-
camera shifts are really fucking
Yeah,
good
I
too.
was gonna say I love the camera work in this.
Particularly with Dylan, the way that the camera cuts are like wrong and timed badly is one of my favorite things about this conversation. Because everywhere else in the game, it's like shifting around normally, and then with him, you just get like a camera cut that's maybe a third the length that it's supposed to be.
Thanks for sharing that.
For the record, that will
On
never
top
happen.
of also just
Not as long as I'm
having
alive.
like generally really good cinematography throughout the rest of the game. Like, that's something that Control just excels in.
But also,
Your
something else I
award.
feel compelled to point out is how much of the cutscene acting up is to do with the game running badly.
That's fair too. But there is definitely some of that going on, like even in its proper form. And like a lot of it happens. Every part of it is so deliberately off kilter. I'm just a big fan of how that whole thing works out. But yeah, like when they first did the reveal for this, and they were doing the the Game of the Year like award showcase or whatever, and they showed off, might have been E3 even. They showed off the trailer for Control, and it was just like big, bold, kill a kill style letters of just Control against the black background, and then zooming in, and you've got all these fucking obelisks coming in with bright red highlights everywhere, and I'm like, oh my god, I think I'm in love with this game and I don't know anything about it. And then you finally get to the game and it's like, yeah, no, totally. They just went with it.
It's a Remedy game. Fuck do you want?
Fuck do you want? This is what I wanted. I'm glad that they agreed. Now, the last time that I checked, we were about 60 to 75% of the way through. Let me see about how far we are. As we get later and later and more closer to the modern day, I guess, in Remedy's, I forget more and more about these games. It's like I'm left with more of an inkling of, oh, this was really cool. But then, like, the farther back I go, I remember, oh yeah, I remember enemy spawns here, especially fucking Max Payne. Max Payne 2 is one of those games where you die in a room like 6 times until you learn the enemy patterns. And then you just remember. It's like, oh great, I don't remember how to do long division, but I remember this guy with the shotgun. You know how it is.
You know, important stuff. Priority.
That's right. When's the last time you used long division? Actually used long division yesterday. Bullshit, I shouldn't have had to use long division. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you're about... You're off 80%? Actually making pretty good progress, considering you're doing, like, side quests and stuff along the way. Totally.
I'm doing it. I'm getting it done.
There are only so many times that I can harp on about how much that I appreciate these games that never overstay their welcome. But it's definitely doing like that. It's like we get in, and do what we gotta do, we make our point, and we leave. American Nightmare was always like, man, I don't remember much of I don't remember much of these games. I don't remember exactly how the stuff plays out. God, what are we looking at? We're looking at like maybe 10, 14 hours, and it's like average playtime? About 5 hours. Oh, shit. Oh no, I'm so disappointed. I can't explain to you how properly disappointed I am. I went onto this website that you may have heard of called www.twitter.com, and there was a trend being excited.
Oh, good lord.
Like, fantastic stuff. What's going on? It's trending in Florida? Is Grimes, like, coming to Florida? That would be so cool. Grimes being a particularly good... I don't know if Grimes is still indie or not, but good and weird is how I would describe them. I was like, oh man, are they coming to Florida? And I look, and it's like, oh, it's some fucking football player who I guess scored a goal or something. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, it's just
okay.
footballman.
It's just, there should be a content warning next to shit like this, where if a hashtag is trending on Twitter, but it has to do with sports McBallman, there should be a sports tag on it, just so that you don't get confused and think that it's something actually cool. They are, along with Run the Jewels, they've got some music specifically sorted out for Cyberpunk 2077.
You want to run that by me again? The game hung up.
Yeah, no problem. Also, hey, welcome, Cosmo.
Hey,
yeah,
welcome.
I was gonna say, you, before too long, you'll come into contact with Grimes yourself, because along with Run the Jewels, Grimes is one such artist that's been confirmed to have some music set aside for Cyberpunk 2077.
Cool.
And that makes me really excited, because that tells me that Grimes and Run the Jewels are about to make like a whole lot of money. And I like when good bands and good content creators make money. Hey, what's up, Trench? Still doing his Trench thing.
That's right.
I made a lot of mistakes. Like a lot of mistakes. Oh! Let me tell you something else. You remember we talked quite a while ago, I believe it was the first episode even, about unlocking a long coat for your Jesse.
Yeah?
The quest that you are about to embark on is, if memory serves, that's how you actually unlock it. Decent part of the way through the game, but it's also... it's a damn long code. Come on. I'm just happy that it's here to begin with. At least from what I'm seeing here, you're definitely... God damn, that's pretty. Sorry, something just blew up on your screen. It looked very, very nice. That happens so much. You seem to have a really good handle on the combat, especially as it's going forward here. Like, aside from some rough hitches that we've had with a boss or a special encounter once or twice, definitely doing it well.
I mean, don't fucking jinx it.
Well, I mean, you have that luck and variable states left, right? So if ever I jinx something about this game, you just go back there and flip the cat's paw a couple times. See, Rem never thought of that. They knew it might happen. you can tell that I've played in my life way too much of a certain video game because despite the fact that I've got these big ass headphones on my head and I'm through a closed door across from the house, I can hear the menu theme from Spider-Man PS4 in the living room. And I'm like, man, I could be playing Spider-Man right now if that fucking PlayStation would just go on sale. Because I'm like chomping at the bit to play Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales again. And Sony won't let me do it. I've got another 4 days from now until supposedly the next restock is supposed to happen, and there's just no way. There's just no way. I camped on that thing for like the better part of a day, and it didn't happen. And it's like, what? Am I gonna go through all of this just to find out that some dude from Amazon swiped it and stole like a bunch of kitty litter and put that in a box instead? Some would be really like it's obviously infuriating to have to look at these tweets and these like Facebook posts and whatnot and be like, oh man, some people are getting really gypped and some people are totally about to get fired. But at the same time, it's really funny seeing like the audacity behind some people where they're like, just the idea of waiting for your PlayStation and then opening the box and it's a toaster is like incredible.
That's what happens when you have like these big ticket items.
That's what happens when you have these big ticket items and you oversell on pre-orders.
And have no fucking accountability.
Yeah. As excited as I am for the console and as excited as I am for some of the games coming out, boy, is this maybe the
shut up!
worst
Bright
console
Falls
launch.
summary.
Good, you found it.
You want to take this one?
I will as soon as it pops up. Might take a moment though. But while I wait for this thing to pop up, it's been the worst console launch in my recent memory. I remember it being rough around like the 360 and PS3, but nowhere near this rough. Oh, there it is. An unconfirmed threshold manifestation at Cauldron Lake, WA, resulted in a fictional story written by the author Alan Wake, creating an AWE in which reality was altered to match that of the story, through only locally and for a limited time. Mr. Kirkland, head of investigations, was alerted on September 13th. That's my fucking birthday! September 13th, 2010, by an ex-bureau agent, Frank Breaker, C. blank, that an AWE event was taking place in Bright Falls, WA, refer to events investigated in 1970, 1976, 1978. Breaker had received a call from Barry Wheeler, Alan Wake's literary agent, on behalf of Breaker's daughter, Sarah, who was the current sheriff of Bright Falls. A bureau field team arrived at the site 2 days later, only to confirm that the event was over. Interviews were conducted, refer to the 1970 blank, Thomas Zane, 1976, 1978, Odin Anderson, Tor Anderson. Alan Wake was believed to blank, investigator. Eyewitness reports highlight an old light switch, possible object of power, that redacted, missing. Wake was not found at the scene. Reports claim he dived into the lake, but no body was discovered in the search.
Because he's still down there.
Well, also because it's not a lake, it's an ocean. So that is not the only one. Give me a moment here, because if I remember correctly, there's a second one relatively nearby.
There's also another Threshold Kids episode, so we're gonna watch that.
You go for that. You do that, and I will search up this shit.
I can see you're upset, Meg. Why don't you tell Uncle Mr. Bones what's wrong?
I did bad on my clairvoyance test.
You can't ace every test, Meg. You see, everyone has different brains. Some brains can talk to each other. We call this ESP.
ESP?
Some brains
I
can
fucking
lift
love
objects
these so much.
like a baseball. Talk about a fly ball, eh, Meg? No interruptions! So who cares if you fail your clairvoyance test? Maybe your brain can throw baseballs, or talk to dead people, or make friends blind. Once we know what your brains can do, we'll know what job to give you. And if your brains are just right, you'll get to sit in the big chair.
What if I don't want the big chair?
What if I don't want the big chair?
Big chair.
Everyone wants the big chair, Meg! That's why we're all here. Use those brains to listen for once, or the only chair you'll get in is the one with straps.
Everyone wants the big chair.
Everybody wants to sit at the big table in the big chair. And be a real big car.
I bet I'd be a good car.
Oh man, all of those are so good. I love okay, so I have such a love for FMV in games. Whether it's
things had gone
good or
differently than
bad or
ordinary
anything
for
in
us.
between, every time I see it, I'm just like, I
Wishing
live
won't
for
change
this.
things.
This is what I want.
Finding the projector will.
So
So
I'll leave it up
much
to you
coming together
whether
in this
you
one
want to
case.
do
A new object of power, something we have not
the
seen
other
before.
two.
I mean,
Well, there's
coming
way
from
more
this,
than two,
that's
but
saying something.
the other Alan
Boy.
Wake, like
Doom.
Easter eggs here, or if you want to save them for a later date, because
And
we
the
could
sister as well.
potentially do those
Once we
towards
catch up
the
with her
end
birthday.
of this
Boy.
game, or you
So
could
much
do them
potential.
whenever. But I'll
Well, we're
let you
talking
know
about
that
lower
they're
level
in the
meetings here.
Panopticon.
And I don't want to invoke his name.
So if we ever find a reason to go back there,
Completely different circumstances here.
that's the hint that I would give you.
There was an incident. Yes. We lost a valuable member of our team, yes. Excessive force. Dylan has so much. But he's just a kid. Like, I'll take the blame. He needs some slack. I mean, boys will be boys. He's exceptional and under a lot of stress. Roberts got killed. It's an unfortunate accident, that's all. Marshall needs to realize this. We will make this work. We'll make this work.
Man, poor darling. Imagine being in the situation where you have to smooth over the fact that one of your patients just fucking murked a guy that works for you.
I imagine it's not easy.
Like, there's
Is
the
this
whole,
what Dylan wanted
you
me to
know,
see?
slippery
It doesn't
slope to
matter. We
impending
need to find that
disaster
projector.
angle going on with him, but just holy shit, the stuff that he has to deal with.
I
Agent
got an
killed.
outfit.
You got an outfit. What'd you get?
Subject P7.
We used to play there all the time.
So,
Me and Dylan. And
okay.
other kids.
So
as
I
well.
suppose, yeah, now would be the
We
time to
loved
also
it.
talk about that, right?
This time,
Is Dylan as
remember
being
it was
P6 and you as being P7,
different.
and just
We
like
found a way in.
the idea
deeper
that all of
into
the
it,
garbage
like-
that has happened to him would have just as easily happened to you,
Shifted.
only with a separate flip of the coin,
We went
right?
inside and
Same place, same time,
that's where we
slightly
found
different
this light
circumstance.
A dump is a place for lost things.
Also goes
Things that have been thrown
a
away.
decent amount into
Did you ever
talking
feel
about
that way when you were
how
growing up, Jesse?
how Jessie can
No.
and does do half of the stuff that she does,
yes, but that has
and
nothing
how
to
she
do
can be
with
at
there a
all
slide
like
projector
suitable
at
for the
your
service
home when you were
weapon.
small?
No.
Not that you particularly
Those were
need
before
it,
your time,
but
I suppose.
it's cool to see.
But your family did look at photos together, maybe. In one form or the other?
Maybe.
When was this? Can you remember? At parties? Barbecues? How did it make you feel? Did your parents ever show pictures that embarrassed you? Was alcohol ever involved at
There's
these
so
parties?
much lore
your
dropped in
parents
these
drink?
handful of rooms.
Did that make you uncomfortable?
No. That's just stupid. Come on. That has nothing to do with this. Nothing.
The slide projector, let me ask you this. As a child, did you ever fantasize about worlds inside pictures? Inside a painting? You know, stepping into
Did you ever
a
have a slide
painting,
projector in your
into a
home?
hidden world?
No, I had
escaping
one of
and
those,
finding adventure there, away from your parents.
I don't.
The toy ones, you know what I mean, where you it's like the
Like the
don't
disc
think so.
loader ones?
yeah. Had one of
Totally.
those.
Maybe.
I want to say
I don't know.
that we had like a proper slide projector up in Wisconsin at some point. We definitely didn't
All
keep
the
it when we
times
moved to
I
Florida.
felt
But yeah,
paranoid.
those like side
I was
loader
right.
disc
The
things,
Bureau could have given me
absolutely.
the answers.
I remember having
but
a bunch
they
of
just
Pokemon
stood
ones.
by and watched me.
I kind of wish I still had. There's just so much stuff in these rooms.
Big lore dump.
And there's also a layer of sadness here in that when you talk to Dylan, he's like, you know, part of this is absolutely Jessie's fault because she didn't do anything while I was stuck here for years. And that super sucks because we know that she's been like tirelessly slaving over the work and trying to get him back for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, oh man, if only these characters had been allowed to talk. It's tragic.
It is tragic. Bright Falls supplement.
Ooh. I'm sure I'll see that in about half a minute. God, this room is... I'm sorry, I'm just seeing you roll around. Oh, there it is. This room is super neat. I love it a lot. More of that Ganon's castle hallway thing I was talking about before. What do we got here? Details. Alice Wake, Mr. Wake's wife, was found during the Bureau investigation. She was interviewed and evaluated. She showed signs of severe mental trauma in the form of blank, memory loss. She was later directed to treatment. It was concluded that she had been trapped in the threshold during its manifestation. Notable individuals still missing after the Bright Falls event are FBI Special Agent Robert Nightingale and Dr. Emil Hartman, referred to the Creator's Dilemma, and the file regarding the Cauldron Lake Lodge. Bureau researchers believed this event was the result of a forceful perception of subjective reality stemming from Mr. Wake, overlapping on our own. Wake has been flagged as a potential para-utilitarian. See Prime Candidate Profile for more details. In 2011, a book by Clay Stewart titled The Alan Wake Files was published by Roundabout Press, New York and Olympia. Agents interviewed Clay Stewart and suspected minor para-utilitarian sensitivity. He was placed under indefinite surveillance. Notes: a monitoring station was established at Cauldron Lake to alert the Bureau of any future activity. So, right along in line with Dylan and Jesse was Alan, as like, maybe toss him in one of these jumpsuits too, huh? Oh, I love it.
It's good stuff.
They backload it so much into this and so much more into the DLC. But like, okay, so the difference between this and the way that most games handle this type of thing, and the way that like most Remedy games handle this type of thing, is that in Alan Wake, you'll come across like, oh, Miro was here, written on the mirror, and you're like, that's a cool nod to Max Payne 2, or you'll be like, the bottle of painkillers to kill the pain, and it has that hangover, and you're like, I played Max Payne. And then you get to Control, and like, a third of what's going on in Control is like, hey guys, you remember how Alan Wake didn't get a sequel? Alan Wake got a sequel. It took 10 years. Like, there's Easter eggs, and then there's the shit going on here, where they're like textually, like explicitly saying, no, straight up, Alan is possibly responsible for like most of the events in the story. I really liked it, because you don't see that. You never see, like, every time that you see an Easter egg in a game, it's usually so divorced from whatever the canon of everything is that it's like, oh, you know, it's a fun thing to poke back to the history of this thing that we made and, you know, show our respect and reverence for it. Oh shit, correspondence about a dead dog?
Is that important? Should we read that?
I don't know if we should read it or not. I don't want to read about a dead dog.
Me neither.
It just caught my eye as like something, oh shit. Also, while you're in this room rolling around at the speed of sound, I want to talk again about the mail chute tubes that I really like here, because we touched on it a little bit earlier, but the idea of them having to use this as a replacement for email, because email is just something that can't work within the FBC, is really charming. What a great reason to have to use something like that.
Experiments.
And you can tell that we're nearing the end of the game too, because they're starting to just like straight up, they're starting to explain or repeatedly hint at such monumental things. It's like there's no other potential way to take it. Also, Jesse's reflection in the elevator there was super weird for a second.
It's a weird elevator. It's got like a Starfield effect on it. It's super not right. Something wrong with that elevator.
Absolutely. That repeating stretch on into the distance of the reflection is nuts. And they have their entire section devoted to the AWE and Ordinary. We had a line way earlier in the game where they were talking about Ordinary, and I think it was Emily. It might have been somebody else, but I think it was Emily that said, "I don't remember or know much about the AWE there. All I remember was that it was one of the big ones." And I think, to my knowledge, we have Bright Falls, we have Ordinary, and we have Willow as the big ones. There might be another one, but those are the ones that I remember at the very least.
Willow is a name I do see coming up a lot.
We did pick up a shipping manifest for it.
Alright, time for more cool screen effects and level geometry.
And frame rates.
It's always time for frame rates.
It's handling it pretty okay in this room, at least so far from what I can see. Maybe I'll eat my words in a minute or two, but...
We're going back home.
Something about that, like, rainbow dusting effect against the red light and, like, the geometry here gives me a real, like, future of the World's Fair at Epcot kind of vibe, and I'm really liking it a lot. Because that's... The future World's Fair at Epcot is, like, my fucking jam. I love that vision of the future. You know what? Yeah, actually, that is something that this kind of shares a lot of with you know, some of the old tech and like the wood grain and kind of 1950s to 1960s contemporary corporate design, along with weird magic bullshit. I really like it. It's like a portal to the underworld is written out in blood on top of a shag carpet.
Yeah, that's how you do it. It's the only way.
I have a question for you.
Yeah?
Do shag carpets, like, exist anymore, or did the world kind of, as a collective, decide that they were super unsanitary and needed to go?
They were all destroyed as part of an Altered World event.
Okay. It was one of the big ones.
It was one of the... That's the Willow event. Is all of the shag carpets going away.
The shag incident.
That's right.
Also, maybe not what we should refer to that as.
Yeah, maybe not, huh? Maybe don't call it that.
We'll see. I'm gonna workshop a better name, and if I stop caring enough to come up with a better one, that's what I'll refer to it as, henceforth. From this moment onwards.
From this moment onward. From now until the dawn.
That's correct. I need to do a little bit more research about the end of this game, because I forget if... Oh wait, no, totally. I was gonna say, I forget if this is one of those games that, like, locks you in to an ending and then doesn't let you go back and explore. But I want to say that Control doesn't lock you in after the ending and that you're still free to roam around. Yes. Yeah, there is totally a post-game for Control. I can never tell with Remedy, because it's like... Alan Wake certainly doesn't have one. I mean, you can go back and, you know, collect things to your heart's content, but...
There's a chapter select, but there is not a post-game. Because how would there be?
And you know, I think that's one of the things that... So Alan Wake was originally designed as a quasi-open world game where you were free to roam around and everything. And obviously the game ended up being a linear, chapter-based mission select type deal.
Why'd they keep an altered item here?
American Nightmare goes back to that quasi-open world design in a lot of ways. There are chapters in that. It's separated into 3 acts, but at the same time, you're given 3 hub worlds pretty much, like 3 larger maps that you roam around and are kind of free to explore.
Right.
And you know, I kind of don't like it as much. They don't nail it quite like Control does, and it does not have the focused design of the rest of the game, but it's still a great playground for the action that does happen, because it is very action focused, but it's definitely not as strong as either of the extremes of like Alan Wake's main story and Control's just general being. You can totally see like the fucking step 1, 2, 3 process.
It is very much an iterative process.
Yes. Total stepping stone. I remember doing this mission. This one was pretty fun. This one is neat. I would say the Synchronicity Lab is one of the more memorable moments in the game, despite the game being filled with memorable moments. You know what I'm happy that we haven't had to run across yet?
What?
Another one of those, like, flashcard slide puzzle things.
Good.
Ooh. AKA the mirror. This proposal is to finally determine the precise nature of the reflected space within the altered item. Is it transplanter? Psychologically generated? Who knows? Who knows what this shit is? I gotta stop reading these because they're at such a delay. I think the only other way that I might be able to handle this is by dubbing over in post and having it happen that way, which seems finicky.
Seems like too much work.
Unknown why the mirror does this. If there is any blank, then it's something we cannot perceive. Popular theory is that the mirror has a goal in mind, that it reflects the world it wishes were real, subtly replacing our reality with its own. While certainly far-fetched, the theory is worth noting here as a warning not to underestimate. Don't fuck with the mirror.
Don't fuck with Master Mirror.
Okay, wait. What are you referring to? Because that makes me think of Master Miller.
Looks like there's a mirror in there.
I am referring to Witcher 3.
Was the mirror dude, was that a name for Gaunter?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Okay.
I thought you, of all people, would totally get that.
In my mind, I always think of him as either Gaunter O'Dim, because that's such a fucking cool name for a fairy tale scummy bad guy, or I call him Spoon Man because I can never stop thinking about Spoon Man, and also him fucking around with spoons.
It's like 10,000 spoons.
Isn't it ironic?
Don't you think?
Don't you think so, Zach? Imagine Neil Cicierega in the fucking Deadly Premonition universe.
He would do okay.
He would do okay. you would run into the situation where, like, York would run up to somebody and they would be like, hey, York, don't you know about this thing? And he would say, oh, of course, it's this way. And they would say, no, that's bullshit. It's this way. Let me tell you about my hobby. Only the difference is, like, if Neil went up to him, they would start talking to Neil and he would immediately get it right away. And they would be like, ah, finally, a man of taste and culture who understands. And then he would write a song about it.
He would write a song about it.
And just as I said that we weren't going to have to do any more puzzles, comes another puzzle.
The image look different.
Tell you what, while we're sitting here, I am in the middle of finals right now for my courses, right?
Uh-huh.
And one of the classes that I'm taking is a course on mythology, and you know, all that entails. And I essentially just wrote a paper about Godzilla and like the Godzilla as a response to
what am I missing?
Different natural and man-made tragedies throughout Japan's history, and like Shin Godzilla especially as a criticism of the Japanese government and their kind of death by hesitation, I guess. And I feel like as I was writing that paper and coming to some of the conclusions that I was, and talking about like destruction myths and why destruction myths exist and mechanically how one is constructed in both the modern and super ancient age, I was like, you know, this could have been an FBC article. The mechanics of how a mythological event relates to the world around it and why it was created. And also, if you factor in the idea that a student's job is their schoolwork, you could potentially say that my job is to write about Godzilla. You could say that.
That didn't sound right.
It's also the only time in an academic paper that I get to name drop Neon Genesis Evangelion, which I'm happy that I got to do that as well. Now I just want to write my fucking thesis or whatever on Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh, jeez.
Only I wouldn't be able to keep that from being like 7 pages long and a mess to read for whoever has to read it. You like backmasking?
It's alright. Did I get that right? No.
From what I remember, the backmasked messages in Control weren't like... So you're not like missing anything important. It's kind of just what it sounds like, a lot of, hello, are you there? Can anybody help me? I'm stuck in here, like that kind of thing.
Uh-huh, that's kind of what I figured.
But I'm gonna try and bring up like an actual transcript of some of these messages and see if I can find them. There are some I know in the music, and we'll get into that because there's also some in the music for Alan Wake that is important. It's fucking stupid. I fucking hate it. It reminds me so much of like, oh, play your ACD record backwards and maybe you'll hear about how your mother sucks cocks in hell, and it's like, oh my god, get just this moral guardian outrage panic stuff, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That is such a thing that it used to be such a thing and it's gone away. But in my mind, whenever I hear backmasked audio, I always think back to play the record backwards, and Pokemon is really telling you that it's for the devil. I kind of miss that. I remember Halo was big on that. Halo 3, Halo 2 and 3 had like themes centered around the grave mine, and I remember they definitely had some
You need to listen. I saw something in there. There is
they
something
definitely had
inside.
some like
You need to lock down
walk
the mirror.
through the shadow of the valley of the shadow of death and whatnot, and were like demonic and biblical quotes or whatever that they put in
Why are you
there.
talking like that? What's wrong with you? All of you? There's something in that fucking mirror.
Halo had a lot of that. Also, I feel bad for you because now I have to. There's the fucking audio puzzle involved, and we've got to talk over it. That sucks.
There's an audio component to this?
A little bit. Yes and no.
I mean, this looks right. Does it not look right to you?
It might be right. I'm so far behind, dude, I have no idea.
Oh, this setup is terrible.
You know what's really frustrating about the setup, too?
What?
I was doing a little bit of research earlier today. It's like, I mean, how can we maybe, how can we maybe improve some of this stuff? And I was like, hey, do we have any solutions for maybe Parsec on Windows 7? And they're like, yeah, totally, Parsec works on Windows 7. And I found like 3 articles and 3 FAQ questions that were all like, yeah, totally, it works on Windows 7. And I'm like, okay, in what context? And they're like, oh, as a client. I'm like, okay, so it doesn't work then. Because it doesn't work both ways. You can't do it as a host. And they're like, oh no, but as a client, it's fine. I'm like, it's not helpful. That's not the question that I asked. We're back where we started.
Spooky.
Big spooky. And yeah, as I'm looking through, most of this is, why are you talking like that? What's wrong with you? There's something lurking in the mirror. I can't understand you. You need to listen. I saw something in there. There's something inside. You need to lock down the mirror. And Jesse's specifically is like, my name is Jesse Faden. Can anybody hear me? Is somebody there? I'm stuck in the mirror. It's neat. You're not particularly missing anything. Like, or rather, you don't gain much by going and reversing the audio around. It's pretty much exactly what you would think it was.
That's also a really cool outfit. I hope that's the one I just picked up.
Guess what?
That's the one I just picked up?
I'm glad you like that outfit.